Good morning and welcome to the BUSHVELD Minerals Limited Q2 and H1 2023 operational update. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted at any time by the Q&A tab situated in the right corner of your screen. Just simply type in your question and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it is appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I'd like to submit the following poll. I'd now like to hand you over to Craig Coltman, CEO. Good morning, sir.
Good morning and thank you. Thank you to all. Welcome to our quarterly and half-yearly operational investor update. And thank you to all who have dialed in. In summary, group production for the quarter was 840 mtV, up from a year ago, with an average production cash cost of $27.4 per kgV, which is 380 kgV less than Q2 2022. This was attributable to higher production volumes and a weakened South African rand to the US dollar exchange rate. Sales for the quarter were up 36% from last year, supported by reductions in stocks. With regards to the vanadium market, demand for Bushveld's full range of products remains strong. Looking at the individual operations and beginning with the Metco, quarterly production was down 480 mtV. Production was negatively impacted by unplanned maintenance shutdown of the sulfur recovery plant, unusually high rainfalls during the period, which necessitated a plant stoppage due to the Barren Dam level constraints, a further 7-day unplanned maintenance shutdown for the dust collectors, power instabilities as a result of a transformer failure at the local municipality towards the end of June. Production cost was $27.5 per kgV for the quarter compared to $24.4 kgV a year ago, owing to higher raw material and maintenance costs. We continue to explore both long and short-term plans to mitigate the challenge posed by the Barren Dam. This issue and the challenges with the sulfur recovery plant mean that we have had to reduce our 2023 guidance at Vametco to between 2,300 and 2,400 mtV. At Vanchem, production increased to 335 mtV from 191 last year, mainly due to the fact that we are now running Kiln 3, whereas a year ago it was still in the process of being commissioned. As a result of higher volumes, we saw costs flattening over the course of the year and production cash cost for Q2 2023 of 27.2 kgV compared to 48.5 a year ago. Notwithstanding the higher production during H1 of 2023, Vanchem's production was materially lower than what the company had anticipated for the period due to unplanned breakdowns, unscheduled power disruptions due to lack of reliability of the municipality's infrastructure. There were also delays in the use of third-party better quality ore, which only commenced in July 2023. For these reasons, guidance has been revised to between 1,400 and 1,500 mtV. During the month of July, we've implemented a number of initiatives with the aim of getting Vanchem into a sustainable, positive cash flow position in the short term and achieve stable production levels of around 180 mtV per month within the next 6 months period. Some of these initiatives include changing the reagent mix from 100% sodium sulfate to a mix of sodium carbonate and sodium sulfate, which reduces the silica buildup at the kiln and hence increasing the kiln availability. Secondly, deploying a team from Vametco to Vanchem to improve knowledge sharing. And thirdly, including shift managers for supervision 24/7 to ensure immediate decision making. Since the implementation of these initiatives, we've seen Vanchem produce 160 mtV during the month of July. In order for Vanchem to meet its revised guidance of 1,400 to 1,500 mtV, average monthly production has to increase by at least 50% relative to the average monthly production for the first half, which has already been achieved in July. We have a reasonably high level of confidence of this performance as a result of these various initiatives, continuing for the rest of the year and achieving the new revised group guidelines. I don't believe we've ever achieved 160 MTV in the history of Vanchem. We certainly haven't done so looking back at the records over the last 18 months. So if the trend is your friend, we're in a good space at Vanchem. Whilst it is still early days for me at Bushveld, and having had the opportunity to visit our key operations in recent times, I've seen that while there are challenges, there are also opportunities to get the most out of our assets. My priority is to focus on the fundamentals of the business by ensuring stability at Vametco and achieving the turnaround strategy at Vanchem. There is no doubt that there are a number of items that have to be prioritized for the rest of the year. Getting maximum value out of Vametco and Vanco is my number one priority. Another key priority, of course, is the Orion debt restructure. We've made progress with the documentation. Details of a separate general meeting for shareholders to approve the Orion transaction will be sent after the legal documentation has been completed and we've gotten approval from the South African Reserve Bank. I will also focus on reviewing the group's capital allocation strategy and prioritize the projects that provide higher financial benefits, but of course with manageable risks. Bushveld is a company with potential, and I look forward to sharing the company's investment proposition from a new perspective. Thank you for listening.
Perfect. Craig, thank you very much for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions just by using the Q&A tab, which is situated on the top right corner of your screen. But perhaps we'll start off with the pre-submitted questions from investors. And the first one reads as follows. Does Bushveld's new CEO plan to issue dividends to their shareholders?
Of course, we would like to declare dividends, but we can only do so when the cash position allows us to do so. The priority right now is getting maximum value out of Vametco and Vanchem and reviewing the group's capital allocation strategy by prioritizing projects and provide higher financial benefits, of course, but with manageable risks.
Perfect. Thank you. Just turning on to the next question. Does Craig, Bushveld's new CEO, plan on purchasing Bushveld shares?
Yes, I will definitely be buying an initial allocation of shares as soon as I get the regulatory compliance sorted on my side.
Perfect. Thank you very much. What investors want is honest and clear communication. Does Bushveld plan on improving its engagement with investors?
The short answer is yes. We value each and every shareholder and intend to provide material information in a transparent and timely manner. We will be holding similar sessions like this on a quarterly basis.
Perfect. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think the company's chances of survival
are? I'm not going to give a score here, but what I can say is that I'm confident that if we get back to basics, we execute in a disciplined manner with standard operating procedures, I don't think it's a matter of whether we will survive, but rather we will thrive.
That's great. Just turning to the next question. With group guidance for 2023 being reduced to 3,700 to 3,900 MTV, will Bushveld be returning to an annual production guidance of 4,500 MTV in year 2024?
Later this year, we will begin to budget for the 2024 financial year, at which point we will have a better sense of guidance. In the past, we've provided guidance in the Q4 results early in the new year, and all things being equal, we'll do the same again.
Perfect. The next question's really around Mokopane progress, and asks if you have an update on that.
As mentioned in the RNS this week, we received group's capital allocation strategy. We're reviewing it. We'll prioritize projects. I've made mention of the fact that we'll focus on projects with higher financial benefits and manageable risks. Based on the pre-feasibility studies completed in 2016, the Mokopane has an ore reserve of around about 29 million, which is in the order of a 30-year life of mine. Mokopane remains in our portfolio and will stay in our portfolio until we've actually had an opportunity to review the opportunities, the investment returns of this, together with a host of other projects.
Perfect. Just moving to the next question. Fortune told investors that BE has reached critical mass. What exactly does this mean when the company has delivered absolutely nothing?
Look, I cannot comment on statements made by the prior CEO. What I can focus on is the present and the future. And that means focusing on the group's capital allocation, prioritizing where the benefits are, and of course, focusing on Vanchem and Vametco in the short term. That's about as much as I can say on that question.
Thank you, Craig. Why does Bushveld Energy need to be carved out? Can you not fund its growth yourself? And what is the current status of the transaction?
Look, this carve-out decision was taken some time ago, and I've no doubt you've been told of the rationale. Regarding progress, we announced last week that Garnet will support the Enerox with an additional funding of $3.25 million. This will result in Garnet holding 60% of the issued share capital of Enerox and VFRB Holdings holding the remaining 40%. No doubt, Bushveld's underlying interest in Enerox will be diluted. We cannot comment on behalf of Mustang, and they will have no doubt their time to provide an update to the market when they're ready.
Perfect. The next questions are around the electrolyte plant and asks why it's taking so long to commission. If you could provide some details on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I've been in the seat a month. I've spent a lot of time on the operations. Yesterday, I had the opportunity. I went down to East London to visit the plant at Belco to understand the process better. What I can tell you is that we're a month away of sending our batch product, to about 10 customers. That's a batch product of about 5 liters. The process thereafter is the customer needs about 2 weeks to qualify us, if you like, to determine whether the product is of a sufficient standard. If we get the nod, the next step after that is they will ask for something between 5,000 and 10,000 liters of the product, which they pay for. That takes 8 weeks to send out to them, depending on where they are in the world, but that's a good estimate. They could take anything between a month or 2 to test that 5,000 to 10,000 liters on site before they come back and give a final verdict in terms of the quality of that product and determine whether they're going to provide us with orders. So realistically, if you look at that time frame, at best, we'd be in a position by the end of the year to make a confident call in terms of when those orders and the quantum of those orders are going to come. But until then, I'll stay close to the opportunities and the risks associated with that plant. That is about as much as I can say. Thank you.
Perfect. And there's another statement around that, which reads as follows. We were told that there were dozens of inquiries for electrolyte, but there's been no news. If you could just comment on that, that'd be great.
I mean, I'm not going to comment on the past. My focus is the present and the future. And I think I've explained where we are with Belco and the time frame in terms of realistically making a confident call as to the probability of the take-up orders. That's going to take another 2 or 3 months based on the current timeline. I think that answers the question you've just posed as well.
Perfect. And the next question reads as follows. Why is it taking so long to commission the mini grid?
Again, the past is the past. I'm looking at the future. What I can say is that the Celsius battery has been installed. It's been filled with electrolyte. What we've now got to do is connect the solar panels, and that should, happen, or will happen, shall we say, in the 4th quarter latest, and that'll complete the process.
Thank you very much, Craig. Why didn't the board act sooner to change CEO and protect shareholder value?
Look, it's not my role to discuss prior management decisions, nor the board's thinking, prior to my arrival as the CEO. My immediate focus has got to be laser focused on the operational improvements at Vametco and Vanchem, and then maximizing value for the shareholders as a result.
Thank you very much. The next question is around your headquarters and asks if the company is planning to move at any point.
We have no plans to move in the immediate future. We're paying a market-related rental on this premises. Moving offices now would just result in additional costs and, quite frankly, unnecessary disruptions.
Perfect. Thank you very much. BUSHVELD produced 3 products from magnetite, vanadium slag, titanium-3 high iron purity using a smelter process. Would BUSHVELD Minerals ever consider the same as an additional income stream?
Our processes are designed and set up for vanadium products production. To produce other metals at this stage would involve a different extraction process. That's not something that I'm going to be on as my radar right now when I'm laser focused on getting the production of vanadium at Vanchem up to a stable rate.
Perfect. And perhaps the final pre-submitted question, does Craig have any share price goals by the end of 2023? Given what BUSHVELD have in their pipeline, does Craig expect market recognition to upcoming announcements to raise the company's market capital?
Look, for me, it's just to focus on priorities. And let me summarize them again. It's getting maximum value out of the 2 operations, my number 1 priority. Resolving the Barren Dam and sulfur recovery plant challenges at Vametco is a key issue. Achieving the short-term improvements of the Vanchem turnaround strategy to get to the 180 MTV levels in the next 6 months as a base going forward is a priority. Clearly, concluding the Orion debt restructure is very important. And then once that's all done and dusted, to start looking at the group's capital allocation strategy and prioritize projects that are going to give us the acceptable returns with manageable risks. And I think as we deliver and achieve these initiatives, we hope the market will give us some recognition on the work that has been delivered.
Perfect, Craig. Thank you very much. That concludes the pre-submitted questions. As you can see, we've received a number of questions throughout today's presentation, and thank you to all the investors for submitting those. Craig, if I could just ask you to open up the Q&A tab and read out the questions where it's appropriate to do so, I'll pick up from you at the end.
Let me just scroll over here. Have a look at some of these questions. Just bear with me a moment. I want to go to the first one. The first one started with Lima. I'm just trying to find that question. Here we go. What are your plans for Lima? Can it be sold, as nothing seems to have progressed from the original plans some 10 years ago? The answer is absolutely it can be sold, and it must be sold. And that's got to happen. That's a clear focus of mine. The individual that's responsible knows exactly what good looks like. It's no longer appropriate in our stable, and we've got to move very quickly and get it out of the stable and sell it for as quickly as we can for as reasonable price as we can. Another question about the Belco takeoff. I think I've addressed that already. There's another question around, has Bushveld Minerals implemented strategic maintenance or risk mitigation measures to avoid future instances of unplanned downtime at the mines? Of course, I don't know to what extent how efficient we are in that space, but I would believe that the answer is no. We don't have an appropriate planned maintenance system, because if we did, we wouldn't be having so many frequent interruptions around whether it's the SRP or whether it's the kiln or whether it's the Barren Dam. Now, there may or may not be reasons for that, but that is an important focus. You need to get, I talk about standard operating procedures. Part of standard operating procedures to have a proper planned maintenance system in place, and that will be one of my focus areas going forward as well. Critical in the mining industry. Does Craig expect the revised Orion deal to be later submitted to the shareholders to be in any way materially different to that? No, there's no reason, based on the terms of reference that I saw prior to joining the company, in terms of what was on the public domain, no reason to believe that the final deal is going to be any different to that. What is the anticipated outcome of the Mustang CLNs? I think we have to take a rain check on that. Let's see when Mustang make the announcement and the timing thereof. Following Craig's visit to Belka, is there any update on his initial view? When does he expect I think I've explained that the realistic time frame and the art of the possible around those 10 potential customers. What I should have said is that doesn't mean that parallel to that we're not going to get the marketing department to vigorously focus on additional potential clients. But I think by the end of this year, towards there, we'll have a very good steer in terms of our success or otherwise around customers' feedback, whether they qualify us on, whether they are happy to qualify our product. And that will give a very good steer in terms of the likelihood of some offtake agreements. Belka visit, when is the start? I think I've answered that. I think that's the lot. That's the end of the questions that are on live now. Thank you, Alexandra.
Perfect, Craig. Thank you very much for that. I think you've addressed those questions you can from investors, and of course, the company will review all questions submitted today, and we'll publish those responses on the Investor Meet Company platform. But just before redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to the company, Craig, could I just ask you for a few closing comments?
Yeah, certainly. First of all, I really appreciate everybody dialing in. So thank you very much for that. I hope I've adequately answered your questions. While I cannot assure you that you'll have found everything I said to your liking, I can always promise you that you'll get an honest and straightforward response from me. Sometimes you need to get smaller before you can get bigger. So consolidate the operations before considering growth opportunities. Thank you for listening.
Perfect. And thank you very much for updating investors today, Craig. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you'll now be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will then take a few moments to complete, but I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of Bushveld Minerals Limited, we'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good morning to you all.